Okay, so we are live. Welcome everyone to the sessions episode 2 with me, Sham Sharma. Today, I am very happy, very proud to welcome to the sessions Aadit Kapadia from MyIndMakers. First and foremost, Aadit, thank you very much for joining me here on Sunday. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, Shambhav. Pleasure to be here.
Terrific. So let's jump right into it, Aadit. Why don't you tell us and the audience a little bit about, a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your motivation behind Mind Makers, which is your blog.
Okay, so thank you, Shambhav. MyIndMakers is a news and views portal that we started with my two other partners, Pramod
Right.
Kumar Goravan and Sunanda Vashisht in 2015 January. Prior to that, I mean, professionally, I'm a civil engineer, but as I always joke, I'm an alleged columnist. So I,
I like the way you put it.
yeah, so I've written for various portals. I used to write on various portals earlier, and politics, current affairs, history, and stuff has always interested me. So Sunanda, me and Pramod actually met through Twitter.
Oh wow.
Yeah, yeah, but then we connected before the 2014 Lok Sabha elections, and we were writing. We kind of formed a unofficial writers group. I mean, there was no writers group, but we used to discuss ideas.
Right.
Okay, what's going on? What do you think? Get everyone's opinion and stuff. And then I mean, there were multiple authors, and then we decided that. I say unofficial because we didn't have a name or anything. Just the passion for writing, just you
Yep.
write. But then we decided that why not take this to the logical step forward and be a portal for the Indic voice throughout the globe. And there are people from India writing, and then Indians all across the world writing for us. And there is a unique thread that binds us all.
Yep.
The towards India, the passion towards Indic cause, be it history, politics, current affairs, anything. So that's why we decided to start MyIndMakers. Of course, now we definitely had your usual articles, reports, and stuff. But what we also decided to start was a weekly podcast. At that time, when we started, we did our podcast episode zero. I think it was November 2014, because
Oh wow.
uh, at that time we thought it was a bit of a lighthearted thing. Let's
Right.
bet. Who the hell will want to listen to us? But then our first episode, things got serious because I mean, our first topic of discussion was Charlie Hebdo attacks because
Oh wow.
that's how long we've been doing these.
Yeah.
And at that time, I don't even think there were many Indian current affairs news podcasts. So now it's about 154 episodes, and I think even more if you count the middle interviews and stuff we've done. And then we also started doing interviews and YouTube hangouts and stuff like the ones we're doing right now.
Right, right. No, and if I'm not mistaken, you just had an anniversary for your for Mayan Makers as well. You turned 3, right?
Yes, we turned 3 exactly a month ago, January 25th. In fact, the
Wow.
day we launched was when Obama was touching base in India
Wow.
3 years ago
Wow.
on
So,
Republican Parade, if you recall, as a
yep.
guest and stuff. Yeah, so
Yep. No, that's fantastic. So, congratulations on that. Congratulations on Mayan Makers turning 3, and I hope you go from strength to strength only.
thank you so much.
Yeah, so I do see that you have. I was reading on your profile on Mind Makers, and it says that you have an interest in Indo-US kind of relations and Indo-US policy in general. So let's kind of start from the US and then move to India. And I was reading about. I found that a bit very interesting because it's sometimes in the US, it's hard to kind of gauge what Indians feel about Democrats and Republicans.
Yeah.
In India, it's easier to kind of gauge that, but in for Indians in the US, it's harder for me to sometimes gauge because, and that is why I found that article that you wrote after, I think the 2016 elections in the US. I think that was very interesting because that this is something that I was feeling as well because there was so much support from my generation, kind of in the US, in India, people that I went to school with for Hillary Clinton during the elections, and for some reason I just couldn't bring myself to it. I mean, I it was almost kind of a good thing that I was not a citizen here being able to vote because it was a very hard decision for me to pick because I just could not bring myself to vote for Hillary. And kind of traditionally I felt, now I might be wrong in that and please correct me if I am, but traditionally I felt that whenever there's a Republican Party in power in the US, it turns out to be better for India than Democrats. Do you see that at all?
So there are two parts to this question.
Right.
First, about the voting question, that makes it two of us. I vote in India, not here. So I
Yeah.
was glad I didn't have to make a decision in 2016.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you this. Personally, I also thought Hillary would win just because I did not think it would be such a close contest in the Midwest,
Right.
especially Wisconsin, Michigan, and somewhere Trump won by margin. I mean, heck, no Democrat has carried those states for years. I mean,
Yeah.
30 years. So that's the first part to the question, that a lot of people were shocked because they were living in a little bit of a bubble themselves
Hmm.
about their own states. And every state had such specific issues. Like in Texas, I mean, you could say that a Republican would win, but Hillary got quite a bit of votes in the cities. So if you go
Oh.
to Houston, and like Houston is a predominantly Democrat city, so if you go to Houston and talk to people, they'll say, "Yeah, of course we're voting for Hillary. Come on, that's a no-brainer." But you go 2 hours east or 2 hours west, and it's a completely different situation.
Wow.
Almost versus the city versus the non-city divide, kind of.
Yeah.
It was a clear rural-urban divide, but rural America is not really rural America because
Right.
you know what I mean. Like if
It's not like rural India, you know?
yeah, and I mean you can't really. It's more like a tier one versus tier two cities here.
Exactly. Yeah.
Not affected due to manufacturing, cars, issues
Hmm.
like. So that's the first part. The second part of your question is the U.S.-India relations have been very good were very good under George W. Bush.
Right.
I would say that it has been better under Republicans than Democrats. Even I initially was used to believe that, but you had under Richard Nixon in the 70s, or when Henry Kissinger was the Secretary of State, not the best relations when a
Right.
Republican. But of course, that time India was perceived to be more towards Soviet. Then even during senior Bush's time, there was a little bit of a thawing because Narasimha Rao was the prime minister, but really it kick-started in the later years of the Clinton administration.
Right.
In the last 6 months or 1 year, because 98, let's not forget, US put sanctions on India
Yep.
for testing in Pokhran. So, and then since Obama, there has been almost like a continuum of George W. Bush's policy towards India. There is a little bit of difference between Republicans and Democrats is the treatment towards Pakistan.
Yes.
Kind of like a lot of India watchers have this mistake that being pro-India in US means being anti-Pakistan. Now, I know that's a very flawed policy that the US perceives, where they are pro-India and then they sometimes mollycoddle Pakistan as well. But that's just how it is right now.
Right.
So, I personally think that although Hillary might have not been as strong on Islamist terrorism, by the way, there is no evidence to suggest that Trump is strong on Islamist
Yeah.
as well. But if say I'm to extrapolate that Hillary would have not been, I would not say Hillary kind of going down in the India-US relations. She would have taken it to the next logical step.
Do you think she would have though? Because I feel like it would have. What I felt like under Obama was I don't know if India-US relations necessarily moved forward, but I kind of got the feeling that they were coasting a little bit. It was just,
Uh,
it was just being on like a lazy river,
yeah, but
is what I
that's
felt.
that's India-US relations anyways. Until
Yeah.
like Prime Minister Narendra Modi came and you saw a real shift towards
Right.
US. His predecessor, a little bit of credit also, Manmohan Singh was also perceived to be quite pro-US, but I
Right.
don't think his party necessarily was.
Right.
That relations and stuff. And I think it's also that US relation, India relations are almost like on an autopilot, if I may say. So
Right. Right.
they'll keep progressing, but you would need determination of leaders from both sides to kind of take it to the next level. So whereas I do agree that Obama would have not may not have done it as much as George W. Bush stuck his neck out, especially on the nuclear deal or something.
Yep.
Hillary would have been pretty much an Obama 3.0, but definitely not when Madeleine Albright was the Secretary of State.
Right.
So that's what I think. But I have to say, right now, in the Trump India thing, I think they have gotten progressed far better than what we would have expected.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking as well, because I feel one of the things that I feel about Trump and Modi, even though they're very different people from each other, very different leaders from each other, but I feel like they do. Modi definitely sees the kind of benefit of aligning with the US and the benefit of developing better relationships with the US. And I don't know if from Trump's point of view, if this is a conscious effort, but you see Trump very vocally kind of speaking about the terrorist aspirations of Pakistan and the way it harbors terrorist activities in Pakistan and stuff like that. And it might just be bluster, but it's rare, relatively rare, I think, for a American leader to come out and kind of call out a country that it sees as a very key ally in every other case.
Yeah, but I
And
think
it's sorry, go ahead.
no. Yeah, no. I just wanted to couple your statement. Yeah, he did make a statement, but so did Hillary 4 years when she was the Secretary of State. That if you have snakes in the backyard, you're
Right,
you. The problem is that the policy is controlled by Department of State,
right,
and a lot of policy decisions are taken by fellows entrenched in the chatterati circles or
right,
something. And they have made their policy decisions, and I don't think a natural evolution has taken place where they abandon their positions that they took in the pre-80s.
okay,
Where Trump may make statements, and certainly refreshing that he makes. I would like to see what Rex Tillerson thinks about it because he's a
right,
Secretary of State, and I would like to see what if we get news from DC that the State Department is thinking on different lines. Right
right,
now, I definitely do think that it is they are taking a harder line on Pakistan, and the Congress certainly is taking a harder line on Pakistan.
right,
Also, I think the Democrats see virtue that if on national security, especially in taking on Islamist terrorism, Republicans have stolen the march.
right.
And it's coming up. So I think we should find Democrats adopting a shriller voice as well on
Do you
that.
really think so that something like that in the US? Because I feel like with in terms of like the general conversation, like the kind of a cultural conversation, it almost seems like Democrats are kind of doubling down on that issue that well, Islamic extremism isn't really a problem, and you see people like Bernie Sanders who stand with Linda Sarsour and things of that nature. So I almost feel like, and there's another example of this. I think he's the deputy chair now in the Democratic Party of the DNC, Keith Ellison.
Listen, yes.
Who's pretty infamous for anti-Semitic remarks.
Yeah, and then
So
some 9/11 controversy also happened with him. I think earlier. I think he apologized for it. I'm not sure about it. Something happened. But
right. So,
so I
so do
think
you actually see them as as kind of taking that stance in the future, or do you see them more as doubling down? Because the way they at least speak looks like they're doubling down.
so you made an interesting point. I think I'm going to see we're going to see a dichotomy where
Hmm.
the leadership in DNC and DC and on your comedy shows and stuff that show up for interviews are going to take such positions, but local congressional Democrats are going to be far severe on it. And that
Okay.
I think there is a churning in the Democratic Party on it. And I mean, I see. I am no particular Trump supporter, but I see. I'm very objective about it. There are
Right.
certain things where he's gained and stuff. So whether you agree with the tax cut or not, thing is, it's going to help him in the
Right.
elections. No question about it. Because as my a friend of mine very jokingly puts it, that she's a liberal until it comes out of her paycheck. It's like that.
Yeah.
And in 2018, I just don't see Democrats having a leader.
Hmm.
So I think Republicans, especially with the State of the Union address and his steps on Obamacare and tax cuts, I think he has stolen the march.
Wow.
Now, Democrats, and if you see these shows like this Bill Maher show and stuff like that, which I always,
Hmm.
all the show is just 1 hour of Trump bashing. And I'm like,
Yeah.
bash him, but what ideas do you represent? You can't
Yeah.
just be because I'm anti-Trump, vote for me, because that is never going to work in
Yeah.
democracy.
Yeah,
And
exactly. And and I see that so much. And I feel like I look at it, I try to look at this whole thing from an objective perspective, and looking at it from an objective perspective, from neither a Trump hating perspective nor a Trump loving perspective. If you look at it as just a neutral voter who's like, okay, this is an issue that matters to me, and I'm looking for a guy that would take care of that issue for me. And if you look at all these, like you said, all these interview shows, all these late night talk show hosts and comedy channels and all that stuff, it's just, you're very right. It's just bashing Trump and then bashing the people that vote for Trump. And I seriously doubt that that is a good way to win an election, because that strategy lost you 2016. And if you're going to keep doing that for the next two years, then well, good luck in 2020.
no, and bash him. I don't mind if you bash him on real issues, but then also have someone talk about what they stand for. And there
Right.
are very few people, In fact, Bill Maher always jokes that there are Republicans are to put him more ballsy than Democrats, because there are some Democrats who won't come on Bill Maher's show because of the position he takes on Islamist terrorism.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Wow, that is incredible, and that it's going to be a very interesting thing to see who comes out as like the leader to kind of challenge him. Some people are touting out, people like Kamala Harris and people like that, and Elizabeth Warren, but I don't. I don't know. I personally don't think that will be a good idea.
it's going to sound funny, but Republicans, man, Democrats really need to think beyond the Northeast and California. There is
Yep.
a whole country in between, which has a lot of Democratic leaders, if
Yep.
they want, and they keep just going back to. They'll talk about Kamala Harris, Gavin Newsom from California, and then they'll say Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, and all from the
Yeah.
Northeast. I mean, move from the pocket boroughs, guys. I don't.
Yeah.
There is this guy, I forgot San Antonio ka jo mayor hai, I forget his name. He's
Okay.
a Democrat leader too. He's a Latino, I think, mayor or ex-mayor. I don't know when he. I see. I follow these Democratic what are the conclaves and stuff that they do every 4 years,
Right.
and I'm very curious about the second rung and third rung speakers that speak because they are going to be your baki jo first last day pe aate hai to back the president. Half of them are retired,
Yeah.
the other half are tired. So you have tired and retired guys. So I'm more interested in, what are the other guys saying?
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think if they keep trying to project these people as leaders, I think they're going to have a very tough fight in 2020 as well. And so I want to from there, I kind of want to move to kind of Modi as well, because one of the things that I feel like what's happened is one of the shift that you've seen that you were talking about, and that you I think alluded to as well, that the shift that you see in American policy towards India is in a large part due to Modi. And people in India, especially the media in India, does not want to recognize that at all. But I think Modi and the exertions that he's made overseas, it has elevated India's stock in the world. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I'm going to quote what my friend and colleague Sunanda Vashisht always says that Modi's India is now foreign policy on steroids.
Right. Yep. I agree with that. That's a good
Yeah,
way to put it.
yeah. We actually last Wednesday we did an event. I think Sunanda was in conversation with Alyssa Ayers, who was in the U.S. State Department during Obama's time,
Right.
which she's written a very interesting book on India. I've never seen an American diplomat delves into so much detail on India. I
Wow.
mean, yeah, from political to something like that. Even if you don't agree with the whole book, I would, it's an interesting read. So, anyways, that's what she was saying that we were discussing that yes, in the last 3 or 4 years there has been a shift in gears, and uh, you have to understand where Prime Minister Modi comes from. The visa controversy from 2005 and
Yep.
stuff like that. He actually let it all go and didn't hold any grudges and started from a new chapter. That's what responsible world leaders do. That now you are in a position for prime minister, let bygones be bygones and let's start earlier, let's start now. And I think it has helped where I think we tend to misplace thing is we reduce to US India relations just to two things: H1B visas and defense.
Yeah.
Not just it. I mean, of course, outsourcing and offshore and stuff do feature in discussions. But I think the major thing is probably the increase in trade that we might see that might happen, and also US sticking out its neck for India on various world forums on others. Now
Right.
there are, of course, a lot of sore points also that in the APEC, which is like Asia Pacific Economic Council, India's I think membership has been pending for the last 20 years. And yeah, so India is hoping for its Western friends to buy. Yeah, I mean things like that. And then of course the UN Security Council. And I'm not saying all of them are due to United States. Its support might help, you know. So things like that. So I think it has gotten very positive, but there is still a lot more to be done. But Prime Minister Modi's leadership and his perceptual change towards that, you going towards the position of you keeping United States as an ally and going away from the Nehruvian consensus of non-alignment
Right.
is driving this change, definitely.
And just to follow up on what you said as well, what do you think? you said still a ways to go. And what do you think, like from India's perspective, what do you think Modi can do more to kind of elevate those relations to the next level?
See, I think Modi, between India and US, you mean as countries, or you mean in terms of the government to government contact right now, or what do you think?
I'd say a bit of both. Like, what would you say about kind of both aspects?
Both, I'll tell you. Soft power is one way.
Right.
Is yoga, of course. I mean, it's everywhere. I always joke there are two powerful Indian soft power. I think yoga and ghee. Because
Yeah.
you go to Whole Foods and all you
Yeah.
see ghee, and the third one is coming haldi because they
Yeah.
drink golden milk a lot of
You
late.
look at like every second BuzzFeed and HuffPost article is now about how ghee is the next big superfood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there is of course interaction on soft power movies and stuff like that and various things. That is irrespective of the governments, or in some cases in spite of the governments.
Right.
And but in terms of yoga, of course the government has helped quite a bit and given its with the World Yoga Day and stuff. But I think in terms of diplomatic things, what we are doing, we just need to doing it. Moreover, I think India needs to probably have more investor friendly policies or something. Maybe that needs to change so that more investment comes into India. Definitely that would be a boost for Make in India, what Prime Minister Modi has been pushing. And on the US side, I think more support for India on world forums, on organizations. I mean, like I said, APEC, I mean, it's just one example, things like that. So let me tell you the statistics. So
Right.
APEC, 21 countries, right? These are the members. Australia, Brunei, Canada, Chile, China, Hong Kong, Indonesia, Japan, South Korea, Malaysia, Mexico, New Zealand, Peru, Philippines, Papua New Guinea, Russia, Singapore, Thailand, United States, and Vietnam, but not India.
Wow.
Yeah,
Papua New Guinea, but no India.
that's what the conference is. I think next conference.
Oh my goodness. Don't
I
you,
mean,
do you remember? I think it was there was some environmental summit that they had recently, and they were going to hold it in Papua New Guinea or one of those, I think, Pacific countries, island countries, and apparently that country didn't have a convention center that was big enough to fit delegations from all countries, so they had to host them in like Denmark or something.
unbelievable. No, I did not know about this.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
but
So I'm like, well, I mean,
so such organizations, why wouldn't United States not stick its neck out?
yeah,
There are many such organizations like that. I mean, I lose count of acronyms, and
yeah.
and of course the United Nations Security Council issues is there as well, where India wants. I mean, heck, one sixth of the world's population doesn't have a veto, but
Wow,
England and France have a veto. Germany doesn't have a veto, but England and France do.
that is
And
so strange.
so so then that's why there is the G4 or the Quad or something, right, between Brazil, India, Germany, and I forget the fourth country. They're all pushing for a veto power.
Is it
uh,
South Africa?
no, not
No,
South Africa. Japan, sorry, Japan is
Japan.
there.
Okay.
Yeah. So but yeah, that's one thing, that's one positive thing also I want to add, and then we can probably move to the domestic Indian
Hmm.
discussion. The India-Japan relations have flourished like anything under Narendra Modi.
I would
There's
completely agree with that. Yeah.
personal rapport with Shinzo Abe has helped it, and I mean, an India-Japan cooperation in Africa. They're making the AARC, which is the African Corridor, and almost like an Indo-Japan combine as an alternative to China in the
Right.
Pacific. Africa, what's happening?
And with Israel as well, I feel like one of the things that um, India has often done with Israel, a country that largely always been in support of India. They've always treated Israel like an illicit affair. You know,
My
they
friend
like
Pramod
hang
always says,
out together, but as soon as somebody looks towards them, they'll be like, "Oh, we don't really know each other."
no. So my friend Pramod always says that Israel, they have pushed it under the sheets.
Yeah.
I mean, they are in the bed with Israel, but don't tell anyone.
Yeah. Exactly.
But
And
Israel
it's
is
kind of nice to see be out in the open like that, because one of the things that I feel like is lacking, or every country needs, is like an all weather friend. And I feel like that is what Israel could be for India, not the US, not anybody else, but Israel.
Israel has been. They have
Yeah,
supported us during wars where other countries have not even, I mean, refused to touch us with a barge pole. Heck, they've
yeah,
come. they've supported, or they have kind of contextualized the other countries which were fighting our war with. So no, Israel definitely. I mean, Kargil 71. I mean, you can name it whenever you want it. So, and Israel has so much technology to share with India, especially with a predominantly agrarian in an
Yeah.
agrarian share. Just on the agriculture issue, we have so much to learn from Israel.
Oh,
So I
definitely.
hope that solidifies.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. So I want to shift tack a little bit and kind of before I go to India, I want to ask like one last question about Indians and particularly Hindus in the US. And one of the things that since I moved here, I have noticed that Hindus often are very eager to kind of club themselves with other immigrants, with other immigrant groups. Whereas I think that there is a massive advantage to Hindus in differentiating themselves, because you talk about any other sort of nationality or ethnic group that moves overseas to a different country. Hindus stand out. Hindus always tend to stand out because overwhelmingly they're very well educated. Overwhelmingly they earn good money. Overwhelmingly they make an effort to assimilate into the local culture. And you will see, like, you will see a Chinese gang, you'll see a Russian gang, you'll see a Vietnamese gang, but you will never see an Indian gang roaming around in Los Angeles, for example. And I always find it very strange that Hindus never really assert themselves as a distinct entity overseas, and I wonder why that is.
It's a tough question, right? In terms of because I don't know. There is also a difference between people like me and you who've migrated from India to here about 10 years ago, and people who've been born and raised in the US.
Sure.
And also, it also depends on when you have migrated to US. Like, I know a lot of people who've migrated to US in the 1970s or the 80s, and they were subjected to not so flattering experiences in their schools.
Sure.
And has happened is that has pushed them with the other guys who were subject, so that forms your common thing. Oh, you were also picked on, I was also picked on, and
Right.
that's when you get clubbed. But then also, as there is more population coming in, there are distinctive differences coming out. And so I think there is a push towards a amongst American Hindus who are, and I would call them American Hindus who are born here with with organizations like Indo-American Foundation and stuff
Right.
like that. Very good stands in that, and standing up for that. But I think that's because also of it's dependent on when you came here
Right.
and what sort of things. Now I'll tell you, my experience in Houston is completely different from what somebody who say migrated to a very small town in Kansas or something
Right.
like
Right.
right now. So that's the thing. For me and you, this might be easy because you're in Chicago, I'm in Houston.
True.
So different here. I mean, I always joke. So I'm a Jain, right? And Jains and Hindus. I mean, you can barely tell the difference here.
Right.
Thing. So I always joke that if it's a Jain gang or something, they'll be probably preaching non-violence everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And
But
sorry. Go ahead.
but that's the thing. So it's people like me and you might raise this question, but people who have been born and raised here, they grapple with different issues of their own identity.
Right.
Stand for and stuff like that. So I think there is a movement towards realizing the potential of what a Hindu-American society. And the funny thing is, what was the catalyst is when you see misrepresentation in local media, in textbooks, and stuff like that. That is
Right.
always the driving force. That okay, hold on. We have assimilated, but there can't be rubbish written. So in California, textbook was a classic issue where the Indian American or the Hindu American community stood up for what it believed in. So
Yes.
see that, but I don't see it taking into a political turn or something like that. But who knows? What might.
I think what I was kind of alluding at is creating like a cultural idea of Hindus in like a popular conversation, and like almost in pop culture in the US, because what I often see conservatives, particularly conservatives in America, I feel like conservatives in America would often find a lot of things in common with Hindus in America on certain issues. Certain issues, of course, they're going to disagree with, but on certain issues, I feel like there's a lot of common ground with Hindus. And when they talk about immigrations and this and that, they often lump Indians with like Pakistan and Bangladesh and things like that. And I feel like we are as because of our culture, whatever you might want to call it, but we are a very separate entity from them because we take great pains to always assimilate and always be the best part of whatever country we're in. So I feel like kind of creating that idea in Americans' heads that okay, Indian immigrants in general are good for any country whenever they come in. So that's the kind of idea that I was thinking of.
Yeah, but I see again that that idea cannot come at an institutional level until somebody has seen that in person.
Right.
And when you are interacting with people or something, your personal experience will kind of define what you perceive of XYZ or something. So even if, say, foreign policy wise, you might say that XYZ country is doing wrong, but you have a friend who criticizes that action and stuff. In your head, you're almost going to think, okay, hold on, there are some honorable exceptions to this.
Right.
Similar to that point,
Right.
that's how that's going to change. But I think I do see it changing in the next 10 years,
Okay.
and how it's shaping is ironically with politicians starting. You have like a Tulsi Gabbard coming in,
Right.
who proudly asserts her Hindu identity. Which is good. I mean, there is a World Hindu Congress coming in Chicago in 6 months from now in
Oh
September.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'll be attending that, and you'll see that. I mean, Tulsi Gabbard is the chair of that Congress.
Oh
So
wow. I should make sure to attend it too, actually.
yeah, we'll meet and then in
No,
September.
definitely.
Things like that once every 4 years. I would be very interested. So maybe answer to the next part of your question might be us discovering it in Chicago when we talk to people.
True, true. That's very true. It's also possible because I haven't spoken to enough Hindus in America.
Yeah, and across the world. So then you can ask that, do Hindus in UK feel the same way? Do Indians in Fiji feel the same way? So Fiji has actually an ethnic Hindu population, right?
Right.
Yeah, so I mean, things like that.
No,
So
definitely. And okay, so let's move to India a little bit, and I want to talk about something. I want to start with kind of the Gujarat elections, and then move into kind of the 2019 elections. And the reason I bring up the Gujarat elections is you were one of the few people on Twitter, in my experience, from what I remember from that time, you're one of the few people who actually got the Gujarat elections predictions correct. There were so many people who were saying it's going to be a sweep for the BJP and this and that. Congress is going to get routed. But some people were panicking. But you said, okay, there's no reason to panic, but it's not going to be smooth sailing, which is what ended up happening. And so that you might say that okay, my expertise is kind of limited to Gujarat, but in terms of that, in terms of kind of understanding how that dynamics works, what do you see? What kind of trends do you see for 2019 for the BJP?
So again, I think that's a funny thing you say. My original prediction for Gujarat for BJP was 95 to 105, and I revised it to 100 to 105. Okay,
Wow.
so 95 to 105 was when I came back in earlier. Uh,
Right.
because I made 3 trips to Gujarat in the last 1.5, 2 years, and I was joking that I should have stuck with 95 to 105 because that would have been just like right there. But
Yeah.
100 to 105 is one seat away, so not too bad. Uh,
Yeah.
Actually, you would be surprised how so many people messaged me, DM'd me when I stuck my neck out, that saying that you have got it wrong. And पहले तो ये होता है कि अरे तुम्हें क्या पता गुजरात के बारे में?
Yeah.
And I tell them that it's not about मुझे क्या पता और मैं कहाँ हूँ. First of all, I traveled extensively in different parts of Gujarat. Second of all, if if you are really sitting in Delhi and talking to like 5 people on the phone and coming to a prediction of 130, that doesn't work.
Yeah. Then their guess is as good as yours at
Yeah.
the end of the day.
So in terms of smooth sailing for the BJP, गुजरात में ये हुआ कि in they one region, Saurashtra, is where BJP got hammered.
Hmm.
Uh, and that because of agrarian crisis and stuff. Actually, when I took a bus ride in Saurashtra, I had to go somewhere. There was a path when I couldn't see a single BJP flag for about 3 or 4 hours,
Wow.
and it crossed various districts. You could not see. And then, of course, when you got into cities, saw the BJP flag. But rural Gujarat, you could not see it for those 3, 4 districts. And there have been districts where Congress has whitewashed BJP. And
Wow.
Vice versa, BJP has whitewashed Congress in urban Gujarat, like Surat, for example, or Ahmedabad, where they won 15-6. I think this is the trend I don't think we're going to see throughout India because issues are going to be different. So in Rajasthan, I think the election is going to be even closer than Gujarat.
I think so too. I definitely agree with that because there's a lot of ill will toward Vasundhara Raje in Rajasthan.
I don't know if it's necessarily ill will or if it's necessary as skepticism
Right.
that nothing much has
I think
changed.
that's a better word. Skepticism is a better word.
Because if there was an ill will, then there would be a mandate like what Vasundhara got in 2013.
Right.
It was like a three-fourth majority or
Hmm.
four-fifth majority. I think it was phenomenal election verdict. But in say Maharashtra, right, the situation, if the BJP Sena were to be in alliance, they would sweep the
Hmm.
election resoundingly. But now the Sena says it's going to fight elections separately. So
Hmm.
if it's a four-cornered contest, you could be have something like UP where BJP sweeps, like anything. Or if Congress, NCP, and Sena have a tacit understanding where उनकी जो core seats है उनपे नाम के ही nominees खड़े कर दिए, then you might see BJP having a far tougher fight on hand.
Right.
In 2019, I think there is it's on 2019 actually that when people say that BJP on its own will get 300, 350 seats, I don't see that happen.
Yeah, me neither.
In fact, I find it very difficult to see them repeating the 272 mark. It would be great if it happens, but I definitely see them crossing 200. But then it's anyone's game because then your seats are going to be, and it also depends on what kind of alliances they forge. So, will Chandrababu, because Chandrababu Naidu, in Andhra Pradesh, what will happen? In Telangana, so Andhra Pradesh gave NDA about 19 seats or something.
Right.
25 or yeah, I think 19 seats, something like that. So if Chandrababu goes away and BJP can only win one or two, that's 2 out of 25.
Yeah.
That's the NDA's losing. So which was okay when BJP got 282, but when BJP is below 272, things get started a little dicey.
Hmm.
And so right now, as it stands, BJP has one unreliable ally, Shiv Sena, one blue called ally, TDP, one, one very strong ally which it doesn't want, SAD,
Mm.
well in Punjab, and then you have JDU, which is a now allegedly a strong ally, but Nitish Kumar ka kya bharosa?
Yeah, Nitish Kumar. Yeah, no.
That is one state where I think BJP will do better because Bihar, they got NDA got 31 seats and Nitish had two more seats to add, and they will more or less repeat that performance if they are in alliance. So
Hmm.
that they will hold. UP 71 seats, I don't know.
You don't think so?
71 seats is very hard.
Yeah.
70. I know Yogi is very popular, but they might end up around 60, 65.
Okay.
And then same with Madhya Pradesh. Madhya Pradesh, they have 27 out of 29. So where there are only three or four states where BJP will actually hold or gain. Odisha is one where they will gain. Tamil Nadu, they might gain a little bit if they do some sort of an understanding with Rajnikant. And I know you want to come to Tamil Nadu and Kamal Haasan soon
Yeah.
because you messaged me about that. And Kerala and Northeast. So I see on the whole as a trend BJP to be plateauing right now below a little bit below 272. But
Okay.
but I think in Prime Minister Narendra Modi, we have probably the finest political mind in India right now, and he
And
recognizes.
Amit Shah too, to an extent.
Yeah, but Prime Minister Narendra Amit Shah, of course, he's the strategist behind it all.
Yeah.
The change for national election will have to come from Prime Minister Modi, so he will up the game very shortly. But
Yeah.
I really don't see how BJP is going to come to 300 or 350. If
No, I don't see that. I think that's just a bit of chest thumping from from BJP supporters. I don't see that kind of a majority.
300 or 350, I think it's a great thing if BJP supporters, I mean, if activists, of course, the goal should be higher. But then the problem is you set a goal for 115 Gujarat, right?
Hmm.
And you could not get up to it because people were just being assured कि हमें 150 तो मिल ही जाएगी.
Yeah.
Setting a goal and being complacent about getting that seats are two very different issues. And
Yeah.
that's the thing. So I did a seat by seat kind of analysis, by state analysis, saying where BJP could gain, and that it's going to be a tough fight. But I'll
Yeah.
tell you one thing for sure: Congress is nowhere close to getting close to 150 on
Oh,
its own.
really?
No way. I mean, you have to have 106 more seats. I don't
Yeah.
see six more seats right now.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. It. it's also, BJP might be plateauing, but I think people in general kind of realize more what an absolute train wreck the Congress party is as well, and was when it was previously in power. And I think because of social media and because of the ubiquitousness of social media, kind of people see that more. And so I think a lot of people are wary of that as well. So it might help the BJP that Congress has so much kind of bad blood towards it.
So I actually wrote about that, that if there is a presidential contest between Modi and Prime Minister Modi and Rahul Gandhi, that is the only chance he has to win 350 seats, because then he
Yep.
will. Because Rahul Gandhi has no chance.
Yeah.
If it's a multi-party contest where they don't have a figure, then it gets a little dicey. Oh, and another state where I want to add BJP might do better than last time. Better than last time. I'm not saying they'll win it. Is West Bengal.
Really?
They only got 2 seats last time. They
Yeah.
won 15% of the vote. I kind of see them crossing 20%. And once you cross 25%, which is the magic number in Bengal, you start getting seats left, right, and center.
Wow.
Because they were in contention in almost 6 or 7 seats, and they got two.
Yeah.
So I think I would expand that to probably 10 seats now. They're in contention in 10 seats, like Babul Supriyo and SS Aluwalia. I mean, I think probably that's one of the few Bengali speaking Sardars they have in BJP, SS Aluwalia.
Wow.
Fascinating. He won from Darjeeling.
Oh, I didn't even know that. I didn't even know about him.
SS Aluwalia. He was in Congress, but then he joined the BJP 10, 15 years ago, I think. 10 years
Okay.
ago.
Wow, that's amazing. I didn't even know about him. So before I let you go, I do want to really quickly come back to Kamal Haasan and Tamil Nadu, because that's one of those breaking news that's been happening recently. And he released a new political party after numerous times saying that he has no interest or no inclination towards joining politics and stuff like that, which I feel like everybody says that now. And started the party with Kejriwal. And what is your opinion of
Oh,
this
one thing
whole
before you
thing?
go to that, when he said that he said he's no, how we have a bad in Indians. If we want something, we'll say no first. Because अरे आप खाना लेंगे, अरे नहीं 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 नहीं, और फिर उसकी प्लेट देखो कितना खाना होगा. I mean,
Yeah.
अगर आप पॉलिटिक्स में जाए, अरे नहीं कहाँ मैं कहाँ, and then he starts a political party. So we have this very bad habit. So Kamal Hassan has just, this is just a regular desi way of putting things, but
Yep.
I think it's old. I think it's probably the oldest wine packed in the newest bottle.
Hmm.
He talks about the same failed socialism concept, and I have to say his videos are very. They have that's the smart part they've done. 40-second videos, 50-second videos, because Kamal Hassan is a showman. I think he's
Yeah.
best actors in India. Uh,
Yeah.
and so theatrics is not new for him. And
Yeah.
then he called the best theatrician we have in India, Arvind Kejriwal. So,
Yeah. I
you know,
mean, it's always good to have, like, if you're a movie star, it's always good to have a seasoned movie critic in your corner.
no, see, where season? I'm a seasoned theater artist.
And a theater artist.
Theater done. So वो तो था, but he talks about the exact same thing. He has a leftward lurch, and I tweeted about this a couple of weeks ago or something, that the best the left could manage from Tamil Nadu was a guy called D Raja in the
Hmm.
last. This is a remarkable improvement over D Raja.
Yeah.
You might be talking the same rubbish. He's a movie star, has a personality, has fan following in youth. So that is a little bit of a situation. Um, and honestly, left has a little bit of a base in Tamil Nadu. In 2004, actually, CPM, CPI have won 4 Lok Sabha seats. So the left, funnily, has a bigger base than BJP in Tamil Nadu. So,
Wow.
so you might see left and Kamal Hassan doing an alliance, which is kind of scary, because
Yeah.
they might get a few seats. But whether Kamal Hassan actually delivers on that, I don't know. And I would like to point out another thing, a star face thing. I don't know if Kamal Hassan has it in him to struggle with 4 seats. Like,
Hmm.
as in, agar, you know, I almost in my head I'm thinking him like an NT Ramarao, who in his first election became the chief minister.
Hmm.
But if he ends up like a Vijay Kant with like a 30 seats or a few Lok Sabha percentage votes, he might not be the same way, because then he has to play second fiddle to a politician.
Yeah.
And how a star of a political party would do that.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Another scary thing that I kind of find about the way he talks, as like you said, he toes that left line really well. And another thing he kind of adds to it is when he talks about, this party is going to, function in the Dravidian way, and the Dravidian this, Dravidian that. And I was I was writing on Twitter the other day that I was hoping that after Jayalalitha's death and after Karunanidhi eventually passes away, you see kind of the, at least to some extent, the waning of this whole Dravidian politics and this Dravidian kind of divide in the South. But if somebody like Kamal Hassan, a popular guy launching a party, I feel like you're going to see a much more of the same. And again, Kamal Hassan kind of doubling down on this whole Dravidian thing and trying to own this niche.
Ironically, Kamal Hassan seems more Karunanidhi than Stalin.
Mm,
Because this is like some of the statements my friends from Tamil Nadu tell me are like Karunanidhi in his atheist prime, when he was like, making all sorts of rubbish statements against, in some cases, even against Hinduism and stuff.
mm,
He said, when he was asked about Ram Setu, he said, "Who is Ram? Was he an engineer?" ऐसा कुछ पागलपन statement उसने बोला था.
yeah.
Like that. So that extreme left meets Dravidian politics type of
Mm,
stance that Kamal Hassan is taking. But I don't think it is going to work in the long run. I mean, of course, I'm no Tamil Nadu expert, but this is from what I hear and stuff, because the alternatives are not doing that. It's not a competitive Dravidian ideology is playing. And what you said, I don't know how many votes this will get you, because will people vote for a DMK or will people vote for this? And
mm,
then there is the factor of Rajnikant, who I don't think will ever join Kamal Hassan because he's a deeply spiritual man.
yeah.
Is I would say a little more right of center, especially on religious. Kamal Hassan is he's avowed atheist. I think he's calls
Mm,
him. So how that pans out remains to be seen. But for Kamal Hassan, if he and another thing is, what if Kamal Hassan fights the Lok Sabha and gets washed out? Do you think he
mm.
still remains relevant in 2021 Tamil Nadu elections? I'm not so sure.
I doubt it.
But if Kamal Hassan was a smart politician, he will not fight on all 39 seats of Tamil Nadu. He will choose his catchment areas, and I think that's what it is. He's right now fishing in waters. He'll choose the 10 seats he wants to contest, try and make the most. He won't make the same mistake as Kejriwal did, and then the concentrated entire Tamil Nadu in 2021.
Mm,
If he does that, he's going to stay. But if he contests on all 39 streets, who knows? We might see him
yeah.
fighting.
I feel like it's a very interesting strategy to have Kejriwal in your corner. A guy that has, I don't know, he's almost become a parody at this point, at least in large parts of the country, somebody like Kejriwal, and having that guy in your corner, do you think that actually leads or lends credence to Kamal Hassan having somebody like that?
Party look like a branch office of Aam Aadmi Party in Tamil Nadu.
Yeah.
So, no, I don't think so. But then the left wing activists and stuff have no one else to coalesce around.
Mm,
You had a Mega Patkar and people like Mallika Sarabhai and all supporting Kejriwal, but they
mm,
will not support Kamal Hassan. उसमें क्या है? I mean, but that doesn't get you votes.
mm.
Not and and Kejriwal's strategy, like especially in states like Punjab, was so questionable when they started talking to these Khalistani elements and
Yeah, exactly.
from Canada to come and campaign for them. So I hope we don't see the same in Tamil Nadu, because you had those activists of the Kudankulam, that plant going up.
Yep.
I don't see return of those people or the proselytizing folks near Kanyakumari and stuff.
Yeah.
Under the banner of Kamal Hassan.
Yeah.
That's the hope I have.
Yeah, it's also strange. Like, I don't know how serious this problem is in the South, but from what I have friends in the South that I sometimes talk to, and some of them allude that it's actually a pretty serious problem in certain areas. Is this whole proselytization stuff that you talk about the missionaries, and people say, people often say, well, what's the problem? It's just freedom of this, freedom of religion, and all of that stuff. But oftentimes, I think most of the time, this is not a kind of a situation where they tell you a story and they're like, hey, do you like this story better than the story you already know? Come join us. It's more of a, I will heal your leg and I will fix your eyes and this and that if you give me something in return, which is your soul. And
Yeah,
do you think that kind of BJP realizes that as a problem, or the government even realizes that it's a big problem?
the main thing is not also that the financial angle to that is also,
Yeah.
where people benefit financially. Okay, who funds the people who pay them? You know,
Hmm.
they should, because there was a problem in Dangs as well in Gujarat, which Prime Minister, when he was Chief Minister, did realize. But then a lot of this also has to happen with local support. Uh, I agree that BJP probably should take into account, but you also have to understand the definition between immoral and illegal.
Mm, true.
XYZ might be immoral, but as a government, they can't do anything if it's not illegal.
Mm.
So people might say that double down on the other side and stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
But
that's true.
I don't know, because in South also you have the mutts holding very strong in certain areas and stuff, as almost a counter to this. But whether this will fructify, I don't know. And
Okay.
it also remains to be seen when you have a chief minister who's kind of an antagonist. What will that happen? Because you have Siddaramaiah, where in Karnataka, law and order has gone for a toss. So would that Kamal Hassan like figure in Tamil Nadu mean the same way for Tamil Nadu?
Mm,
I hope
mm,
not. Situation.
yeah. Okay, okay. So final question before I let you go is, one of the things that I've always, that I'm trying to do through this show, that I'm trying to do to these sessions, is kind of create a uniting force for Hindus and people kind of on the right or center right, in India and across the world. What do you think, in your opinion, that Hindus can do better or Indians can do better to kind of present a united front? Because that's been our historical downfall. If you look at Indian history, our downfall's been not being able to provide a united front when it's necessary.
I think three things. First, stand up for what they believe in.
Okay.
Uh, Second, don't stop shy of telling out uncomfortable stories about our own history, heritage, and what we've suffered, and as much as recent history. And a third thing, you see what is the greater good, and make sure that your differences, if your differences are over an essay, don't let it jeopardize the whole movement you're doing. Because
Right.
Indians and Hindus have this habit that we take a small difference and we keep hammering to that difference till अपने में ही झगड़ा हो जाता है.
Yeah.
So, and the second part I'll tell you, because I was talking to somebody, Abhi, right now in Oscars, Gary Oldman is the front runner to win the Best Actor for playing Winston Churchill, right? Which he might have done good things in the movie, in World War II and stuff. But for Indians, he is the guy because of
Yeah.
which 4.3 million Bengalis died in a famine.
Hmm.
Why are Indians not telling that story, or why are they so scared of telling that story to
Telling
their
that story.
American parts, to their English counterparts? Heck, if you are no fan of Shashi Tharoor's politics, read his book and at least quote passages, because it's, in terms of research, he's done some phenomenal research of the Inglorious Empire, what England has done to India and stuff. You should tell the story about Winston Churchill. You still should tell the story about. I like yesterday. I was reading, I think, Shekhar Gupta's piece on Justin Trudeau's thing, where he mentioned that Prince Philip apparently had come in Jallianwala Bagh in 1997 and saw 2,000 people had died, and he's like, I don't think 2,000 people died here. The figure must be lower. You must have added the injured. To So why are English royalty, English and American politicians getting away with this rubbish questioning of history, well
Yep.
documented history,
Yep.
or hagiographies of people like Winston Churchill, who was a butcher to many.
Hmm.
So things like that. You should tell your stories, and
Yep.
there are stories. Churchill, यार ये 45 में हुआ. There are
Mm.
people alive who will tell you that when they were 10, this is what happened in Bengal. My grandfather and grandmother will tell me.
Wow.
But in 1950s, they were 20, and 10 साल पहले बंगाल में तो ये हो गया, 10-15 साल पहले.
Yeah.
So it's not even that you have to look at some old manuscripts. This is like, and so many English authors have kind of even done this, written on this. So it's just unbelievable.
Yep. Yep. Definitely. I think those are very good points, and I think that's a great point to end the.
Closing
Sorry. Go
ad,
ahead.
one closing point to add. There was a
Hmm.
guy called Cyril Radcliffe who drew the Radcliffe line and stuff, and I knew about him, but I found out more about a poem that was written bashing him about how the partition was handled through a short film I saw,
Oh
an Indian
wow.
short film I think Ram Madhwani, the guy who made Nirja, he made a short clip on this bloody line or something it was called. And there is a guy, I forget the poet who wrote in 1968. He wrote a poem bashing Radcliffe, how he created the partition and stuff. And Cyril Radcliffe says in that because that whole short film is made from his perspective. It was not just me. They gave me 2 weeks and a bloody map to draw the line. I didn't even take the point. So I shouldn't be the one to blame. Everyone else should be blamed as well.
Yeah.
That short film told me more, that inspired me to look more about what happened. So I guess such short films are required on Churchill and Radcliffe and things like that.
True, true. Kind of assert ourselves more as well, in terms of fighting the narrative that's already existing that's for so long. There's so many people outside of India and within India that do not know about these things, that do not, in fact, care about these things quite often as well. So yeah, I think it's very important to tell these stories, and I think it's very important to push back against those things.
On a parting note, I don't know if you're a movies fan, but I was very sad with Sridevi's news yesterday.
Yeah, I was in fact just taken aback. I was like, she's not even that old.
Ah, she's 54.
Yeah, that is like no age. Like my dad's older than her.
Yeah, it's the same. My dad's older than her,
Yeah.
and it was shocking.
Yeah, it's very shocking because it's so many of I used to really enjoy watching Mr. India when I was a kid, and
Same.
yeah, so watching Sridevi in Mr. India when I was growing up on TV, it was always on Z Cinema when I was in India. So it would play like every Saturday evening on Z Cinema, and almost every Saturday evening I'll sit and watch it. And to see somebody like that, so young, just go away like that, I don't know, it's unbelievable.
Favorite film love story ever made in India. One of my favoriteest love stories by Yash Chopra is Lamhe.
Hmm.
Sridevi was just outstanding as the double role in there.
Hmm.
And to think that that was like what, 24, 25, 26 years ago?
Yep.
Somebody did that. She probably was about 25 at that time, and then
Yep.
27 at that time. It's
Yeah, and even today, like if you see her pictures from like recently, last year, this year, whenever, she's not an old looking woman at all.
a lot of people say that maybe she didn't take care of her body. She was just obsessed with the way she looks. A lot of people have said that. I don't know. I don't want to delve into all that.
Yeah.
I like now she's gone. Like let's like have her pleasant memories of
Yeah, let's celebrate. I think a very incredible actress.
superstar of India, as popular in the south as she was in the north,
Yep.
east and west for that matter. So
Yeah, and that's something that's very hard to do.
very hard to do.
Ask many, many, many Southern actors. It's very hard to do.
I don't think anyone has done it since. In the
Yeah.
last 25 years, I don't think anyone has done it since. So
Yeah, definitely. I think again, I must thank you, Adit, for taking time out on a Sunday of all days to come and speak to me. We really appreciate it. I really enjoyed our conversation. I hope you did too.
oh, I absolutely loved it. Thank you so much for having
No,
me.
absolutely. And again, you're welcome back on the show anytime. I'd love to sit down for an hour with you sometime in the future and shoot some stuff as well.
Absolutely, and I look forward to seeing you in Chicago in 6 months for sure.
Definitely, I'll actually make sure to look it up right now and register or get tickets, whatever I need to do. I'll make sure to get that done. So, guys, that was Aadit Kapadia from MyIndMakers. The link to his website of MyIndMakers is provided in the description below. So make sure to go check that out. You can follow Aadit on Twitter as well. The link to his Twitter account is provided in the description as well. So you can make sure to go check that out as well. Again, thank you guys very much for watching today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it.
Thanks,
If you did,
Shambho, for the
sorry.
amazing work you do in sessions and in the videos you've come out with. So thank you, Shambho, for doing that. It's excellent work.
No, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. It's very kind words, and I really do appreciate it. Again, the goal of this show is to provide an ecosystem and to create an ecosystem and a platform for Hindus and people on the right to center right on YouTube. And I hope we're able to do that with the show as well.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks very much, guys. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you again on Wednesday, and until then, stay happy, stay healthy. I'll see you soon.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks.